Happy Tuesday! Welcome back to day 2 of our Welcome Fall wall hanging project. It's a little live cow that we are cooking up here at the Jayda InStitches show this week. Yesterday we did rows 1 through 12. So we did all of the image work on the project, and today we're going to be moving into the word fall. So we are in the middle of the wall hanging. Tomorrow we will do the word welcome, and then Thursday we will finish the project off by adding a border and the little tabs, and we will be all wrapped up in a 4-day little stint, which I think is just perfect for mini wall hanging, and we'll all have something to put up on the wall when we're ready to welcome the fall. I would like to start today by thanking Lynette. Let's snuck in here with a little super chat just before we got going. Thank you so much, Lynette. And Lynette says, Happy Tuesday, and I couldn't possibly agree with that more. Happy Tuesday indeed. I'm staring at a little acorn. I love this little acorn. Yesterday the family voted on doing the acorn as the main little image here in between these cute little leaves, which differs from the original wall hanging pattern that we designed that has a little maple leaf in it. The pattern in our shop, which is still on sneaky sale this week, by the way, includes the whole thing. So it's the whole wall hanging project plus instructions on image substitution. So if you wanted to put in any one of our Fair Isle style images from last year's calendar blanket project or all the plus patterns we did, you can do that. And the pattern itself, the project, comes with instructions on how to do that, plus the acorn, plus the original, plus a pumpkin, which looked like a really cute plan too. So that is all included in the pattern. And this is what it looks like if you go with the acorn. I love this. I think the acorn's super cute. Anyway, that's what we did yesterday. Today we're going to be working on rows 13 through 20. And it should move a little quicker today since we're already established. You're going to want to continue with the same hook you were using yesterday, obviously. This is a 5.5 millimeter. It's also known as an I or a 9. You want a pair of scissors. Excuse me. Pardon me. A yarn needle is probably helpful if you want to weave in your tails as you go. I'll mention that a little bit more in a moment. And if you want, you can use a spool. You only need one spool today, and that is for the color you have chosen for the word fall. In the original, I used a really pretty variegated color. This is that, I think it's actually called Fall Leaves. It was a red heart self-striping or variegated yarn from way back, falling leaves or fall leaves or something like that, or forest leaves. Anyway, it was very pretty and I really liked it. I thought it made the fall sort of stand out, but today, because I have switched from using acrylic on the original one to using wool on this one, I'm going to use this really rich wine mulberry color. It's a really rich purple, and I think that's going to make it really stand out against the off-white background that I've got. So my color A is still the background color. It's the white color. And my color B today, or the color I'm using for my fall, is this lovely wine. Now, I'm not going to bother using the spool because I rewound all my yarn last night, and I feel like keeping track of the two balls will be not really that much difficult or more difficult than just sort of having a spool bounce around. But if you're more comfortable using a spool, go ahead and wind about 15 yards of your chosen letter color onto your spool. If you decide to do all 4 of your letters a different color, let's say you wanted to kind of really jump into the fall colors and go with 4 different colors, then I would recommend using the spools because the spools are less likely to get tangled on you than 4 or 5 balls of yarn. But if you're only going to use a secondary color, you can just use the other ball of yarn. The reason being this is a small project and it's easy to keep track of. I heard the ding. I saw the sneaky gifting ninja there. Hello, Nico. Nico is in the house. Thank you, Nico. Nico with a gifted membership. And let's see here. Amanda has won it. Congratulations, Amanda. Welcome back to the family. Thank you so much, Nico. All right, darlings, let's get going. I'm going to put my hook and my scissors and my needle off to the side. I'm going to get my secondary color ready to go here. And I'm going to even put that slip knot in place, ready to go so that I can join it when I'm ready. We finished yesterday at the end of row 12.
Lynette sent us a super chat.
I did. I got that at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for paying attention, Mr. InStitches. Tease, tease, tease. Mr. InStitches is here pushing buttons and working hard on the backside as he usually does. Sweetie, did I just say you were working hard on the backside?
Yeah.
I have to let you all know I'm fighting a teensy bit of a headache today, which sometimes makes the words come out of my mouth even worse than normal. So we'll see how today goes. Golly gee. All right, so yesterday we finished row 12. Row 12 was just a solid row of double crochet in your color A. Remember, you have 40 stitches in each row. We chain 2, which counts as a double crochet, and turn at the end of every row with color A. That's the same throughout this entire project. I'm sorry, I'm still thinking about you working hard on the backside. Oh my gosh. All right. We are going to start row 13 now. We are jumping right into working on the letters. Mr. InStitches has got the graph up on the screen. The word is fall. It is definitely left or right hand specific for the instructions. So today we must pay very close attention to which side of the graph we are starting on. If you are right-handed and you work right-handed like I do, then the odd rows all start on the right side of the graph and the even rows all start on the left side of the graph. So if it's an odd row, you read the graph right to left. If it's an even row, you read the graph left to right. If you are working left-handed, you just work in the opposite. So if you are left-handed and it's an odd row, you work left to right. If you are left-handed and it's an even row, you work right to left, and that's just how you read the graph. And that way we'll make sure that our letters are all facing in the correct direction. We want that. We don't want, one L backwards or one L forward. So we want all of the letters to go in the right direction. There is a right side and a wrong side to this project. So here we go. Row 13, right-handed. We are looking at the right-hand side of the graph. For row 13, if you're left-handed, you're looking at the left-hand side of the graph. We all begin with the chain 2 turn in color A, and we all begin a double crochet in the second stitch, but we all are immediately switching to our secondary color to finish off that second stitch. Remember, the stitch that comes before a color change, you always work the first half of it with the current color, but you finish it with the new color. That way you get a stitch that is the full color, correct, but it is finished with the new color, and that sets you up to do full stitches in the new color as you go forward. So here we go. I'm going to get myself a little bit of slack here on my secondary color. We're only dealing with 2 colors today, so you can remember you have to carry your A color all the way through. You will be basically carrying your secondary color all the way back and forth because all 4 letters are the same color, unless you are going rogue and you're making each of those letters as its own color. Remember to drop your spools if you're doing that for the individual colors if you're doing different colors per letter. But if you're just doing one whole color for the word fall, then you're going to be carrying it all the way through until you get to the end of the last letter. Then you would drop it and pick it back up where you dropped it in the next row. If you are working right-handed, you are going to work the next 8 stitches in your secondary color. If you're working left-handed, you're working the next 2 stitches in your secondary color. Be sure to pay attention to the appropriate row on the graph. It is row 13. And if you're zipping ahead, then that's why we keep the graph there so you can see what's happening. I am going to be sort of calling out the counts as we go, just in case you find that helps. And since I've got several stitches here, 8 of them, for me, I'm right-handed, I'm just working over top of that little short tail too, and I'll finish weaving that in a little later. So there's 7 full stitches in the secondary color. I'm going to start the next one. I'm going to get rid of that little tail and pull it to the back. I'm going to start the next one, but I'm going to finish it with color A because I'm going into a color change. So for those of you who are working left-handed, you would have worked 1 full color in the secondary color, or 1 full stitch, I should say, in the secondary color, and then half of the next stitch in the secondary color, and then switched. Left-handed, you now go into, let me see here, 2, 4, 6, 8 stitches in color A. But if you are left, or I should say if you're right-handed, we are only doing 1 stitch in color A. Remember, both-handedness, you are carrying the other color. So unlike yesterday's work, because we are using a secondary color all the way through, you are always carrying one or the other until you get to the end of that full graph, which is the 4 letters. So then you would drop the secondary color before you finish the row. You do not need to carry the secondary color to the very end of the row, just to the end of the use of color. I'm going to finish that second stitch, or that stitch I should say, with color B, or my secondary color, because I am switching back to it now. Right-handed, you have another 8 stitches ahead of you in color secondary color, or color B, if you want to call it that. If you're finished your 8 stitches in color A, those of you who are left-handed, you've got 2 stitches ahead of you in color B. So just remember to pay attention to the graph. In fact, I think I'll just pause and I'll just say the numbers straight out loud for the whole row in case you need to write them down. So right-handed, you are working in total for the whole row of row 13 right-handed. It's 2A, 8B, 1A, 8B, 1A, 2B, 4A, 2B, 8A, 2B, 2A. And in this case, I'm using the letter B to indicate the secondary color. In the pattern, it'll probably be referred to as color E, because each of the colors in the entire pattern, I gave a designation to just so you could tell which one was which as we were working along on it. But this is sort of, we're just focusing on this section, so I will just refer to the secondary color as color B today for simplicity's sake. If you're working left-handed, your row 13 looks like this: 2A, 2B, 8A, 2B, 4A, 2B, 1A, 8B, 1A, 8B, 2A. So that is row 13. And going forward, I will just call out the counts for the handedness as we go. And we can steadily work away at this, and we'll have the letters F-A-L-L all done in the morning. That's number 7 for me. I've got to make a switch. Remember, the stitch before your color change is worked half with the current color and finished with the secondary color. And you're always carrying the other color this time. Until you get to the end of the letters. So you don't have to carry the secondary color all the way through to the end, just to the end of the use of the letters. I'm working through the bottom of the letter A now. If you work more than, say, 2 or 3 stitches over top of another color, it's sometimes very helpful to gently tug on the color you weren't using to make sure that it doesn't sort of gap out underneath any of your other stitches. It just helps keep it tidy. And just one more color change before I get to the end. I like to hold down the last stitch of color, or the last color change stitch, before I kind of just pull gently on the other color, just to make sure that it doesn't want to gap too much. And then that's the last stitch of color for me in the row. I'm going to switch back to A. I finished the row, actually everybody finishes their row with 2 double crochet in color A. Remember, the last stitch of the row is always anchored in the top of the turning chains, so don't miss it. That way you'll have 40 stitches. And when you are done with the color, or the secondary color, the color B, for that row, you drop it. So once you've finished your last stitch with the color, you drop that, it stays where you drop it. You don't need to carry it right to the end. So there we go, that's row 13. We've got the bottom of the two L's, the bottom of the A, and the bottom of the F, whether you were working right-handed or if you were working left-handed. And not a bad start. A little sip of my tea. All right, here we go. Every row ends with a chain 2 turn. That chain 2 counts as a double crochet for the next row, and it's always in color A. We are now right-handed. We are working from left to right across the graph for row 14. If you're left-handed, you are working from right to left across the graph for row 14. Right-handed, your stitch counts look like this. 2A, remembering that the first one is your chain 2. 2B, 8A, 2B, 4A, 2B, 1A, 2B, 7A, 2B, 8A to finish. If you are working left-handed, your counts are as follows. 8A to begin, remembering that the first stitch is your chain 2, 2B, 7A, 2B, 1A, 2B, 4A, 2B, 8 in A, 2B, and then 2A to finish. That's the counts for row 14. And here we go. It is kind of helpful to keep an eye on that graph, but also since we've now established the bottom of our letters, it'll also help kind of keep us on track. I'm just going to switch my yarn around here. I'm going to finish off that second stitch with my secondary color, and I've got that little bit of a reach, so you can see that there over my thumb. I want to make sure that I cover that so I get underneath it as I do my first 2 stitches in the new color before I switch back. There we go. And when you do that, it keeps the little carries of your yarn inside the color, so you don't end up with any kind of bleed, I suppose you could say, outside of the graph image. Now we have a guide. Since we've established the feet of all the letters, I know that I can just stitch right up to the next color change, and it takes some of the onus off having to count so much. The stitch before the color change is always half and half. And remember, you're always carrying the color you're not using, which means you're working over top of it. I spent a whole lot of time yesterday rewinding my wool yarn. I'm glad I did, because it's going to make things move a lot smoother today. We've established the feet of the L's, so now the L's are just little skinny lines as we work the upper part of the L. So the biggest part of those letters is over and done with. Remember, when you work the last stitch in the secondary color for that row, Once you finish with it, you just drop it. You do not need to carry it to the end of the row. So it stays where you last left it, and then it will be more or less always in the same place that you need it when you start to use it in the second or the next row. But remember, if you have a little reach, and you always have a little reach, it either reaches forward, it reaches backwards. If you need it after, so if let's say I dropped it here, but I only needed it here, you want to remember to carry it until you need it. If you need it before, so if I dropped it here, but I need it here, you're going to have a reach. So you always want to make sure that you leave enough slack that you can crochet over top of it when you're getting to it. And if it's directly above it, you're still going to have like a little line. So always make sure that you catch it with your hook when you're crocheting over top of it so that it disappears and you don't have any funny little lines or extra color bleed on your project. 40 stitches across row 14. And we've got our FALL established. All right, let's chain 2 and turn and find out where we're at. Chain 2 turn in color A counts as a double crochet. The chain 2 turn is always in color A, and that is the first stitch of the row, so that's stitch number 1, and there's 39 stitches left to go. We're on row 15, right-handed. You are on the right-hand side of the graph, working right to left. Left-handed, you are now on the left-hand side of row 15 of the graph, working left to right. Right-handed, your counts are as follows. 2, 4, 6, 8 in A, 2 in B, 7 in A, 2 in B, 1 in A, 2 in B, 4 in A, 2 in B, 8 in A, 2 in B, 2 in A to complete the row. Remember, that last stitch will be in the top of the turning chain. If you're working left-handed, your counts are 2 in A, remembering that the first stitch of the row is already made, it's that chain 2, 2B, 8A, 2B, 4A, 2B, 1A, 2B, 7A, 2B, 8A to finish. And here we go. Also keep an eye on the graph on the screen, and now that you've established your letters, just remember that you want to make sure that your letters make sense. So we are working across the third row of the letters. You can really see the L, the A, and the F coming together now. So make sure that you're putting those stitches where it also makes sense. Welcome, welcome everybody. If you're just getting here, welcome to day 2 of our little project. I gotta make sure I finish that stitch. Of our welcome fall wall hanging. Linda, thank you so much for picking up a couple of patterns. Linda's just reminded me to let you all know that all of our Fair Isle style patterns, including our new wall hanging, are all on sneaky sale this week, which means they're 15% off. That's all this week up until Friday, because Friday's Calendar Blanket Friday. It's a very busy week around here. This is the row where we are just about to have the middle of the A. So you've got nice long legs on your A letter. Each of the long legs on the A are three rows high before you get to the cross of the A. So if you're looking at the graph or you're just glancing at it, remember you're on the row 15 and you're just finishing off that last sort of open section under the A before you get to the crossbar. So if you're just glancing up quickly, it's row 15 and that's where you're at. Nice long legs on the A. like this mulberry color. I think I chose the right one. Haven't quite chosen my color for the word welcome yet, but maybe we'll choose that one together tomorrow. I've got some nice prospects in the wool pile here. When you finish your last stitch with the secondary color, remember to just drop it. You don't need to carry it to the end. And that last stitch of the row, always made in A, is also always in the top of the turning chain. So you should have 40 stitches all the way across at the end of row 15. You've got nice long legs established on your F, your A, and your L looks like a couple of little feet. And here we go into row 16. Let's chain 2 and turn with color A. That counts as stitch number 1 of row 16. Right-handed, you are now on the left-hand side of the graph, working from left to right. Left-handed, you are now on the right-hand side of the graph, working from right to left. This is row 16. Right-handed, your color stitches are as follows: 2 in A, 6 in B, 4 in A, 8 in B, 1 in A, 2 in B, 7 in A, 2 in B, 8 in A to finish. And if you're working left-handed, then it's the reverse of that. So lefties, you begin with 8 in A, remembering that that first stitch counts. 2B, 7A, 2B, 1A, 8B, 4A, 6B, 2A. Here we go. Remember to pay attention to the graph and just, use your own sense of what a letter's supposed to look like. That will help keep you on track. If you've got a little reach, and you probably do, I'm just going to move my yarn around here. Remember that you want to work over top. So there's my little reach. I want to make sure that I catch it. And if it's on the front for me, but it might be on the back for you. So always sort of flip your work. If you're bringing your yarn from the back, look at the back before you do that stitch, because you want to make sure that you catch it. So I'm getting underneath it and I'm working it into part of the stitch. Carry the color you don't need, which means you're working over top of it. And we are zipping along through this lovely word. I love the word fall. If you've worked more than 3 stitches over a color, it's always a good idea to just gently tug on it to make sure that it doesn't sort of gap out on you. Oops. What happened there? There we go. This is the row 16, where we work the crossbar across the A. So we're joining the 2 A legs together. What's going on in the chat, Mr. InStitches?
We're talking about canceling adulting.
Oh, I second that.
Nico says you can cancel adulting when you're retired.
Yes, I actually agree with that. We've got some really sensationally awesome neighbors who are recently retired. They have more fun than any teenager I've ever known. I see Debbie asking about lighted hooks. I have a light hook. I think it's called a light hook light or a crochet light. I can't remember the exact name of it. It lights up and it's great if you're working in daylight and you're working with dark yarn, but it is almost too bright, I find. So if you're in a dark place, it's too bright to stare at. It's a very powerful little light, and of course it comes out of the base of the hook at you. So if you actually look right at the head of the hook, you're looking right into the eye of that LED light. It is, I would say, too bright, to be perfectly honest. Remember to drop your secondary color when you don't need it any longer. You don't need to carry it to the end of the row. But I will say it is helpful if you're using dark yarn in a well-lit room. It's still maybe a little difficult to see your stitches with a dark yarn, so I like it for that. But in a dark room, it's just too bright. All right, that is the end of row 16. We've established the cross on the F, the sort of the short stick on the F, the full cross to join the legs together on the A. We've still got 2 growing L's underneath us here. Krista says she has a trouble with white yarn too. Yeah, if your hook is a nice light aluminum color, then light yarns are going to sort of blend in with the color of your hook. Or if you're using nice white plastic, same thing. So yeah, you might find the lighted hook helps a little bit in that regard. Well, let's chain 2 with A and turn. Chain 2 counts as the first stitch of the row. So that's stitch number 1, 39 more stitches to go. And we are into row 17 already. This is fabulous. We have almost got, I guess we do have half the word fall written now. If you are right-handed, you are on the right side of the graph, working right to left. If you are left-handed, you are now on the left side of the graph, working left to right. Here are the stitches and the colors by the count. For the right-handed, it is 8 to begin with A, remembering that the first stitch of the row is already done. That's the chain 2. 2 in B, 7 in A, 2 in B, 1 in A, 2 in B, 4 in A, 2 in B, 8 in A, 2 in B, 2 in A, and that finishes the row. Remember to work that last stitch in the top of your chain 2. Lefties, it is the reverse of that. You begin with 2 in A, remembering that the first stitch is already made. It's that chain 2. 2 in B, 8 in A, 2 in B, 4 in A, 2 in B, 1 in A, 2 in B, 7 in A, 2 in B, and 8 in A to finish the row. And like I said, keep an eye on the graph, but also pay attention to your letters because they will greatly dictate where you need to put your stitches. At this point, it's kind of a little more obvious because we all know how to write the word fall. So we know how to do our letters. And that first use of the color, secondary color, make sure you're looking for any reach, whether it's on the front or the back. You want to make sure you grab it. And don't forget to change colors on the stitch before the color change. There we go. Deborah, thank you so much. I am largely self-taught. I learned how to knit from some lovely old ladies when I was a child, but I taught myself how to crochet, and pretty much everything since then I have worked on figuring out myself. I love math, and that really helps because math and crochet are like music. It's a music with the fingers, just sort of a visual music as opposed to an auditory music. It's all math. And it helps a lot to just count, know how to use graphs in this case. Yeah, I think when you love something, it's very easy to pick up new little techniques. And you can see by all the photos we post from our crafty community that there's an awful lot of talent out there. Oh my goodness, I've got more photos of the mesh granny square from people coming today for you guys to take a look at. So if you're catching up with our Granny's Magical Cupboard calendar blanket series, we have the September square coming this Friday. That'll be the Friday video. But we like to share everybody's squares leading up to that video for the week leading up to it. And it's amazing to me every month how different a single square pattern can be made to look just on, you know, maybe the size that people choose, like they make more rows or fewer rows, the colors they choose, the order of the colors they choose. I just love it. I never get sick of it. Remember, when you are finished with that color, that secondary color for the row, just drop it where you last need it. You don't need to carry it to the end of the row. There we go. That is row 17. We have got almost the whole word written here. We're going to chain 2 and turn with A. That counts as stitch number 1 for row 18. We're on row 18. So right-handed, you are now on the left side of the graph, working left to right. Left-handed, you are on the right side of the graph for row 18, working right to left, and the counts and the stitch colors are as follows. Right-handed, 2 in A to begin, remembering that the first stitch is already made, it's the chain 2, followed by 2 in B, 8A, 2B, 4A, 2B, 1A, 2B, 7A, 2B, 8A to finish. Lefties, it's the reverse for you, so it's 8A to start, remembering that the first stitch is already used, it's made, it's that chain 2, followed by 2B, 7A, 2B, 1A, 2B, 4A, 2B, 8A, 2B, 2A to finish. The last stitch is always worked into the top of the chain 2. And pay attention to the graph, keep an eye on your letters, they will tell you what to do. And if you have a reach, you probably will, make sure you catch it and crochet over top of it to keep things neat and tidy. It's the second last row of the color changes for today, so we're making excellent time here.
You want to do a quick share, how people can share the pictures?
Sure, you can pop into our Etsy shop, and Mr. InStitches will make sure the link is available. Pop into the Etsy shop, scroll down the page until you see Message Seller or Contact Seller. You can tap on that and you can send us a message, and you can include a photograph with it. If you're on a computer, the little message box will have a little tiny sort of icon in the top of the message box. It looks like a landscape painting or a landscape photo, a little black and white thing. If you're on a mobile device, just look for the little camera icon. It's usually down around the bottom. And if you tap on either of those images, it'll let you take or attach a photo. And if you've already got a message thread open with us, you can just tap on that and use that message thread to send us a photo. And we'd be happy to see it and even happier to share it.
Know that these are for sharing publicly.
Yes, yes. We like to share them with the community when we're doing sort of little photo roundups on the community tab of our YouTube channel, and I'd love to do that. It's just so cool. I love being able to share what everybody else has done, and it's super helpful too for people. And if you have specific information about the project that you want to share, like the yarn you used, or if you found you used a hook or a particular yarn, or anything that you thought worked really well, or you didn't like, or you did like, or something, Feel free to include that information too, because I like to be able to include that information in the posts that we do. It helps other people, especially if they're, you know, kind of hemming and hawing about what colors to use or, you know, what size to make something. Remember to drop that secondary color when you last use it. You don't need to carry it all the way to the end. And we are on the home stretch here, my dears. The word fall is nice and easy. It's a nice introduction to using letters in this style of crochet, because tomorrow we've got twice as many letters to do, but they're smaller. I don't think so. You don't have to have an Etsy account in order to send a message. You just message seller. They might, I don't even think it asks for your email. But you know, to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure about that, but you shouldn't need an actual account. You might need to use an email, you might not, but you should be able to just quickly message someone. I don't think you need an account for that. Because not everybody, you don't need an account to actually make a purchase, so you shouldn't need an account to actually.
But also, they're not like they're free, so you can just have one.
Oh yeah, you don't have to pay to have an Etsy account. Nope. $40 stitches. It's always good to count every once in a while. That was the end of row 18. We've got 2 more rows to do today. And this row 19 is the last row of color change. So we've got 2 turning chains to make with color A. Let's flip it over. You can almost see the entire word fall is out here for us. Row 19 is an odd row. So if you're right-handed, you work right to left on the graph. If you're left-handed, it's the reverse. You work left to right. And one little thing to keep in mind, if you're just using the visual cues, the last 2 stitches for each of your L's are obviously going to be directly on top of your L, that leg of the L, but the A is just slightly inset. So instead of it being in alignment with the 2 long legs of the A, you're actually going to start 1 stitch in with your color. So that is a 6 stitches in B across the top of A, but it's inset 1 stitch. So just keep that in mind when you get to it. And we've got a nice long arm on top of the F to finish. So here we go. Right-handed, your stitch numbers and color counts are as follows. 8 in A, remembering that the first stitch of the row is already made, it's that chain 2, and then 2B, 7A, 2B, 2A, 6B, 2A, and then a big 9 stitch count to finish for the F. The top of the F is 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 color B all the way across, and then 2 in A to finish. Lefties, it's the reverse for you. 2A to begin, remembering your first stitch is already made, it's the chain 2. 9 in B, 2A, 6 in B, 2A, 2B, 7A, 2B, 8A to finish, and that is it for the color changing today. Mister, did you say something?
I'm talking to myself.
Oh, okay. That is permissible. All right, picking up my secondary color. Want to make sure that I grab it in that first stitch so that I work over top of any little carry. It disappears nice and neat and tidy. That's the first of 4 letters complete. It's the last bit of my L. That is the second L complete. And as I mentioned earlier, when you get to the A, you're insetting the top of the A. So where you would normally work directly on top of the existing color, that's an A color on top of that stitch. Then you change colors. You work 6 stitches in your secondary color across the top of your A, just to round the top of it a little bit. That last or 6th stitch is right before you've still got sort of 1 stitch of the other color left on that leg, but there's an A used on top of that, and that has the effect of rounding off the top of the A, as you can see. So now you've got your 2 legs and you've got sort of a rounded top.
There's a good question from Yarn Loving Cowgirl.
Hang on one second. I just realized I made a quick little error. I'm going to get that set up for a color change. There we go. Yarn Loving Cowgirl. How do you know how much yarn to wrap onto the cards for the color changes? I figure it out based on how many stitches it is and then roughly how much carry there is. I like to overestimate, and I'll tell you it's roughly 8 double crochets to the yard. So I would count up how many stitches in that graph in that color there are. So let's say there's 40 stitches. There's plenty more in the fall letters, but let's say there's 40 stitches in that secondary color, 40 divided by 8 is 5. So that's 5 basic yards. But then remember that there's some carriage, which doesn't use up a whole lot of yarn, but I like to give an extra yard just for carry, just to be on the safe side, and that way you don't run out. So that's how I generally figure it out. I typically sort of say how much to put on the spools in our patterns. And then right up front, I like to kind of give you an idea. But if you're doing it yourself, you might find that maybe your tension's a little tighter than mine, so you use less yarn. If your tension's a little looser, you might use a little bit more. So that's why I try to kind of overestimate, just so that we all have enough on the spool. Because you can always tie in more yarn if you have to. It's just that now you're dealing with a knot when you go in to weave in your ends, and it can look a little bit messy. It's not the end of the world, but it's just nice to not have to do that. So that's the top of my A complete, and now I am just going to finish off my letters with the top of the F. At the end of your last letter, so once you've finished your last color change on your last letter, you can snip your secondary color yarn. So you're not snipping your A yarn, but you can snip off your secondary color yarn. I recommend leaving 6 inches or 15 centimeters just so you can weave it in, and I'll do that at the end so that you can see what I'm doing. There we go, F-A-L-L. We are all finished with the fall. Chain 2, turn, row 20 is just straight double crochet in color A all the way across. That's 40 stitches in A. Now, if you want, you can work over top. I like to sometimes do this. I'll just kind of catch that little tail and I'll crochet back over top of that little tail before I come back and weave it in a little bit more, just to make weaving in my tails a little easier. Now I'm using wool for this project, so it's pretty grabby. I don't have to worry about my tails wanting to unravel themselves, but if you're using acrylic or a slightly softer yarn, make sure you weave your tails back and forth in underneath stitches of the same color a few times. So I'm going to just, instead of finishing off working over top of this stitch, I'm going to just drop that little tail, continue with my row of A, and then when I come back later, you see I'm already kind of inside this color. I'm going to grab one of the loops of a stitch of the same color of the tail that I want to weave in and just pull it down so that it's sort of down here. And then I'm just going to weave that in back and forth underneath these stitches. and that tail disappears completely. And I'm going to do the same thing down here. So I worked over top of that little tail. It's nice when you've got sort of a bunch of stitches in a row of the same color. And then I'm just going to thread it up and pull it all the way back. So I already worked over top of some of that. So there's the L all disappeared. I'm going to finish off this row. I'll come back and I will finish weaving in that little tail. And that is the word fall. Of course, if you are learning how to do some of this sort of color changing thing, you can just make this little simple fall chunk of our wall hanging, just the word fall. You would start the same number of stitches that we did for the entire project. So chain 41. Your first row would be all double crochet in A, so you'd have 40 stitches in A. Then you can do the chart, F-A-L-L, and then finish with a row of 40 stitches in color A up top, add a little border, and then you've got just the word fall. It would make such a cute little centerpiece for a little table or a side table or something. I think that would be a very charming, or you could just kind of keep adding border to it, and you could have a little set of placemats that all say fall. Nico! Thank you, Nico. Our gifting ninja whips in, flings a gifted membership and zips back out again. Congratulations, Colleen, for winning it. Welcome back to the family. Thank you so much, Nico. All right, that is row 20 complete. 40 stitches in A. I'm just going to pull up on that a little bit so I don't have it unravel on me. And I'm just going to weave this tail in underneath these stitches here. Just sort of show you how I'm doing that. And then we'll flip it over and we'll take a look at the right side. Very important that you don't let your stitches get pulled out of alignment when you're weaving your tail. So you'll see me kind of like hold on to the tail end of where I want that. When I'm weaving in the tail, I hold it where I want it to finish, and then I can pull it tight and it won't cinch my stitches together. And then I hop over a loop and I go back under the same stitches, and I just finish weaving in whatever little bit of tail is left. Same thing, I kind of put my thumb on it, and that way I make sure that it doesn't pull anything out of alignment. So there we go. We'll flip it over. And now you can see that we have a right side now. This was all sort of basically mirror image, the little acorn and the two leaves we did yesterday. So it didn't really matter which side you were looking at, but because we are putting letters into this wall hanging, we definitely have a right side and a wrong side. And the right side is clearly the side that you can see the word fall. And there we go. So that is rows, let's see, 13 through 20 done today. So we did 12 rows yesterday, a whole lot of color changing. This was definitely the most complicated part of the wall hanging. And today was a lot easier. Only one other color to kind of concern ourselves with. And now we have the word fall. So that's the middle section of the wall hanging. Tomorrow we'll be doing the word welcome up top, and then on Thursday we'll be putting on the border and the tabs, and we'll be hanging it. And once again, in terms of hanging, you can use a little bit of doweling, or you can just get yourself a stick out of the backyard if you've got some sticks or any kind of stick debris that's maybe nearby in a park or something. About 20 inches across, really not that long. I'd say that's what, about 45 centimeters or so. And maybe only 1.5 centimeters in diameter, or about 1/2 inch. So it doesn't have to be very big, doesn't have to be very strong, doesn't have to be very long, because the overall wall hanging isn't that long. So it doesn't even have to be 20 inches, it can be smaller than that. So no more than 20 inches long for your hanger. We're only going to be adding four little tabs to hang it with, because it's not very big and it's not very heavy. So look forward to that in the coming days, but that is day 2 all wrapped up. Once again, the pattern plus all of our Fair Isle style patterns are on sale all this week in the Etsy shop, and a gigantic thank you to everyone who has shown some support and picked up a pattern or become a member or gifted a membership or just basically been here with us. Thank you guys so much. It means the world to us, quite literally. And we hope you're enjoying this as much as we are. I'm looking forward to having this up on the wall. I'm thinking I might put it up in, I've got this little sort of small spot just inside the front door. I think it might look cute there. It's like a little tiny patch of wall that needs a little itty bitty something. And I feel like this will be small enough that I can swap it out with other little thematic bits of art as the year progresses. So there we go. We will see you guys right back here tomorrow at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern to continue with the wall hanging. We're going to do twice as many letters tomorrow, but the letters will be shorter. So you'll see the letters come to life a lot quicker, which is kind of neat. And we'll pick a color together. I haven't quite decided on my color for the word welcome yet. So we'll see what you guys think. I've got some lovely colors for options tomorrow, so we'll have a poll before we get going, and we'll start off with that. If you've got questions about the project, feel free to leave them in the comment section. Pop into the Etsy shop. If you've got pictures or questions, you can talk to us there too. And that's a wrap for Tuesday. And happy back to school. I know a lot of kids went back to school today. Some people are already back, but other people got back to school, so it's a busy day for a lot of people. Mr. Stitches, anything you want to add?
No, we're good.
No? All right. Well, thank you so much for day 2, everybody. And we'll